Hello, my name is Shiraz Balolia, and I'm the founder and CEO of Grizzly Industrial Inc. This is Matt. He works with us. It's a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the time. Great. So Matt is very handy and can fix just about anything, very mechanically inclined, but his exposure to woodworking is limited. So when he saw my shop, he said, can you show me a few things and can we do a project together? I said, yeah, what would you like to build? Well, he plays a lot of cribbage with his family, and he said, why don't we build a cribbage board? I said, yeah, that sounds like fun. I've never played cribbage, but I've seen it around. So he bought a template for the holes, brought it in, and we selected two woods for that. The bottom piece is bobinga, very hard wood, and the top piece is quilted maple. So once we started on this project, a little ways into it, I said, I want to learn how to play cribbage. And so I said, okay, I'm going to build a board for myself. Well, we got everything set up. We might as well do two of them. And so we added this. So when we go into the actual production of this, making of this, you'll see us start with this, and then you'll see me add these pieces here. It's a fun project. We've got magnets and cards. All these fit in here. The pins go in here. You slide it in, and you can lift it all up and put it on the dining table and play cribbage. Let's get started. All right, so we've got the template here. We've got the rough cut pieces. Well, they're actually the final dimension except for the length, which we will go ahead and cut off here in a second. This is my high-tech drawing. You can see that the base is going to be bobinga. It's going to be wider. This will go on top like this. There'll be magnets underneath, a cutout for the card box and the pins. And we'll shape this and we'll round this off, and we'll put a slot in here and put a handle so you can pick it up, and because it's kind of heavy. It's 4.5 by 15 1/8. This is a little bit longer, so I've scribed a line there. And this one's going to be 6 inches by 18, and I've got a scribe line there. As you can see, I've got two rulers just to double check against each other so that I don't mess it up. And yeah, I'm glad I did, because I was an 1/8 inch off here. So measure twice, cut once. Let's go over to the chop saw and cut these off. The monotonous job is going to be drilling these holes, so we'll put this template up here and screw it in, and then go on the drill press and drill this out. Okay, so as you recall from my design, it's going to be a rounded board, and so what I've done here is measured equal distances, drawing a radius here, giving me a guideline of what I'm going to do next. So I'm going to go ahead to the bandsaw, and I'm going to cut all the excess material off, and then we're going to take it to the edge sander, and then we'll finish rounding off. So let's go over to the bandsaw. I'm using a small thin blade for being able to make that curve. You can't use a bigger blade because it'll go straight only. And I've lowered the guides down too close to where, so there's more stability at the bottom there. So let's go ahead and fire this up and get started. Okay, now I've got it, I'm cutting close to the line, but not at the line. I don't want to go over. We want to be very careful. We can remove all this extra material on the edge sander. There we go. We got the rough cut done. We'll go over to the edge sander now and see if we can't make this look really nice and clean. So not too much pressure, and just kiss it, otherwise it'll get away from you and you won't have a nice round surface. Okay, let's go get going on this. There, it turned out really nice. We're right at the line.
and then this whole thing will get around. Or I'm going to go ahead and round this off, and this piece will be ready for, you know, cutting the card box and all that other stuff. So I told you guys before, this milling machine is one of my favorite machines in the shop. It makes everything easy. Instead of having a router and jigging this for us, we'll be able to do this using our DRO. So I'm going to go ahead and change the cutter out. I'm going to then use a center pointer to find my center, and then we'll just use this DRO to guide us, and it should be a fairly simple process. So I've got the speed set slow. I'm going to plunge in. So it's just for the first cut. After that, you know, we'll be able to go right through. So it's 1 3/4 is where I want to be on this thing here, on the Y. 1.750. And we are done. We've got a nice handle to pick this up. That's your handle. And of course it'll get rounded over inside, so it'll be nice and comfortable. On to the next step. All right, so we finished drilling these holes. We got to that point, I said, you know, why not make a contrasting one? And so we've decided to go with tiger maple for the bottom. I had a piece of curly koa, and a really nice piece of curly koa. We're going to use that. So it's all been drilled out. Matt did a really good job. He's an expert at drilling holes now. We're going to go to the white belt sander, and we're going to sand this clean. So let's do that. Okay, so I ordered some 1-inch magnets from Amazon. You can get these, a pack, really not very expensive. And these will go down in here. And then I made up a couple of washers made out of steel so that they can stick to the magnet. You can see they stick really well. Oh, they stick really well. So now these are going to go in here. You got to be very careful, because when we put the screw in here, you don't want to hit one of these holes. So I'm going to have to line it up. That's an attention, you have to pay attention to that detail, because otherwise you'll run that screw into the hole and the project will be kind of a mess. I'm going to go here. You want to put your screw in for the magnets. Now we have to lay out for the cards. Yeah, there it is. So, there. These are your two holes for the magnets. We got some nice new pins that I got for these boards. So just a little rectangular hole here in there for the pins to set in. 1/4, 1 1/4. These centering rules are just amazing. These lines are just guidelines. The milling machine will square itself up when we cut these holes. That, and a little rectangle for the pins. That's all we need. All right, so I made these little washers that are going to go on the inside, the steel washers that are going to go on the cribbage part of the board. You can buy them, but I just went ahead and made them because I had a piece of 1-inch round steel stock. I'm going to show you how I make them. So I'm going to fire this up. It's a metalworking lathe. You don't have to have such a big lathe to do it, but here we are. That's what I have. I'm going to clean up the surface a little bit, and then I'm going to chamfer with a chamfer bit. Let's cut this guy. There's a finish that needs to be, I'm going to put this on the mill, and I'm going to mill that off. So I can just keep drilling until it's the right depth, or I'll go to the surface. When the surface starts cutting the circle, I'll lock the spindle in place and then come up the thickness of that. So let's try that. Beauty. Look at that. Just at the surface, just a hair under. So I'm glad I went 185 and didn't go the full depth. Okay, now let's do the other side. Now Forstner bits require a slow speed, otherwise this would be burnt completely, it would be black. It's actually perfect. Alright, so this guy is done. Let's change cutters and do the slots on the big guy. So we are going to drill these 2 holes for the magnets, and then we'll change the cutter and cut out the slots for the cards and the pins. We'll take this out, but before I take that out, I gotta remove this line here, and then we'll notch the corners, and then I'll put a finger groove in here so you can remove the card pack. These are trying to turn the whole thing around, so I'll do that later. So until the next time. Okay, so we've got to this point here. I am going to use this corner chisel to remove those rounded edges. Now, this is bubinga, it's hard as a rock. This is going to be a lot easier to cut, but this is going to be so hard in terms of how much effort it takes to cut out those corners. And you'll see that here in a second. You've got to be very careful when you set this up so you don't cut the edges off. And the first couple of pounds are important. Keep your eye on the corner. Okay. That cut it out nicely, and let's check the fit. Oh yeah, no problem. So I'll cut out these 2 and then I'll do all those. That's gonna be a lot easier because it's maple. Okay, this fits perfectly. Perfect. Okay, let's go over to the mill and we'll cut out the finger slot so you can pull these cards out. And that's the next step. Get over to the mill. Okay, so what I have here is a 1.5 inch round nose bit. This is what I had already, so I'm going to use that. I already set the depth. Here we go. Now again, I don't have any measurement to go by. I'm just going to go by eye. If it looks good, we'll test it out. I've got to stop here so I can come back down to the same stop. That looks pretty good actually. So there, see that, how easy it is? Let's do the other one. I like it. Okay, so I'm using an OG cutter. We're going to put an OG shape on this edge all around. The problem is that maple and koa, they're both figured woods. There's going to be tear out. So rather than take it all in one shot, I'm going to step it up with at least 2 cuts overall. We can sand all these burn marks out. It's looking good so far. Knock on wood. I think I might do 3 passes. I don't want to take any chances. We put in so much effort into this project that having a tear out chunk on the finished piece is not something that is going to be pleasant to look at. A little bit of patience goes a long ways. We're going to do the final cut to give it that nice finish. Oh, look at that. I like it. I likes it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to round this over and round the inside of this and the back as well on the handle so it feels good. One mistake I made is I epoxied these magnets in before I did this. So what we're going to see is this thing wants to stick to the table. So I just have to use a little more force. The other mistake I made is I cut this slot too close to the end. In the plans, we're going to move this slot a little bit farther down so you have more thickness in here just in case you bump it and you don't want to break it. We're at the shaper. I've got a round over bit on here and we're going to go ahead and cut this now. Here we go. Now we're going to go ahead and do the inside. Yeah, we got a lot of tear out here, so we'll have to figure out what to do with that. It wants to grab it when it's a thin material, and so I might just mill off this. These things happen when you're working with wood, and you can have some surprises. Let's see if we can clean this up a little bit. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to remove this tear out. I'm just going to mill this flat and see what it looks like. Now we're going to put a little round over bit, and we're going to round this off all the way and see what happens. Good to have a milling machine. Okay, this is not bad. You know, we'll sand this out. It's not too bad. Okay, so quite often people ask which is the y-axis and which is the x-axis. So the easiest way to remember is a y in the road. That's your y, straight y, and x is going this way, x. And the z is up and down. So a milling machine has 3 axes generally, and if you have a digital readout, DRO, it's X, Y, Z. We'll go ahead and finish this. Everything is rounded off. I'm going to have to sand this a little bit more, and there you are. Put some bone there. That looks pretty good. The next step we're going to do is we're going to go to the sanding table. We're going to sand this up to 600 grit. Then we'll put a clear acrylic finish on it. So that should look pretty good. So I'm going to be using our downdraft table with an oscillating sander. This is really good. It's electric, it's not air. I'm going to go from 240 to 320, 400, 500, and 600. Alrighty, that's like a baby's bottom, so smooth. Okay, we're going to go to the flap sander now and do the rounded edges. So the flap sander will get in between the curves and do all the curves. Now you got to be careful, because if you go like this, you'll round off these edges. You can see the figures start to show a little bit here. When we put the finish on it, look really nice. So let me do the other piece now. Looks pretty good. Alrighty, we're at the final step where we're going to be finishing these with an acrylic spray, clear lacquer. Before I do that, I want to explain a couple things. Now, where the heck did this third piece come from? Actually, Matt just wanted to present his dad with a single top piece. He made this up real quick. One thing we did different on this than we did on these two, which is my mistake. I used a brad point bit to drill these holes, and you can see there's quite a bit of tear out on the holes going in. It's okay, it'll get worn out as the game progresses, being used, as the board is being used. But this one, we used a regular drill bit. So go ahead and use a regular bit, and do not use a brad point bit. The second thing that happened, you remember, we had the tear out. Well, we milled that down, and Matt did an incredible job of hand sanding that to a real nice finish. So you can't even tell, it actually looks and feels pretty good. Now, before we start spraying, we are going to wipe these down so that any fingerprints, oil, anything that's stuck on there will be removed. As we wipe it down, how much of that little fine sawdust there actually is. You can see the color of this, just beautiful. This type of koa is extremely hard to get. I just happen to have some pieces that I've been hoarding for over 30 years. There we are. Okay, we are going to start spraying now. Give it a couple minutes of it has to be easier to do that. The fumes of this are quite intense, and so I'm going to put on a mask. You should use a mask, and when you're spraying, make sure it's in a proper ventilated area. And this is quite flammable, so be careful. Make sure you don't have a furnace in there with a pilot light. And I'm going to flip these over and do these. I'll put on a couple more coats, and when it's dry, it should be done. Okay, so the project is finished, but I was thinking, you know, a lot of these games, most of the time, are being played on the dining table. And so when Dad says to little Bobby, hey Bobby, go get the cribbage board, and Bobby brings it to the dining table and slams it down on the dining table and puts a big scratch in it. So I decided to put little felt pets, anti-Bobby device. What I want to do is not just take them off. I want to inset, you know, make a little hole and then put this inside so that when they get bumped side to side, they just don't fall off. That's not going to scratch the dining table. So there you go. Both of them done. Okay, the two cribbage boards are done. I think they turned out really nice. It's a two-piece project where you do the top, drill the holes, and put steel pieces in here. We'll drill for the magnets, slotted for the cards and the pins, rounded this over, and then at the very end, these things are going to fall out. So at the very end, we added pads so that when we throw it on the dinner table, it's not going to scratch the table. So I think that both turned out really, really nice. I'm sure Matt will be very happy. His family will use this for many years, and I'm going to learn how to play cribbage. But we need the approval of the boss. So what do you think? From what Matt was describing, it's a fun game and it's very easy. So I'm going to learn it and then I'm going to beat him. And then a pair is 2, so 12.
Yep, that's a really good crib.
Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Wow, I'm almost caught up. Not quite, but